I've been trying to forget about those tapes, but despite how many years have passed, I still won't forget about that time I moved out alone and everything that happened that time I was there. I moved out of home to my own house. My house was about a mile from the nearest town, with the most local shops and buildings aside from a few neighbouring houses spread out. When I arrived, I unpacked my luggage but called it a night already without exploring any more of my new house or doing much more, as it was a long drive there. I've never been so far away from home, let alone live on my own. The next day rose and I finished setting up my house, did some shopping in town, then the next night came. By the time I went to bed, before I completely drifted to sleep, I was woken by a sudden knock on my door. I looked out the window confused, but my confusion wasn't satisfied as I saw nobody there. I headed to the front door, opening it, and there was right below my feet at the door a square package in a box, wrapped in that old cardboard wrapping used at post offices. Now more confused than I already was, I brought it in thinking it must be from a neighbour from one of the distant houses around, welcoming me, that found out I moved in. But it seemed strange by how spread out all the houses were. Curiously, I opened the box and discovered an old VHS tape. Funny enough, I noticed this house had an old VCR, which was still set up under an old TV cabinet connected to a TV that was left behind. As curious as I obviously was, I didn't leave it to the next day, so immediately placed the VHS tape inside the VCR and played the tape. For a moment, the screen was black and a bit jumpy, then starting off, still silent, in a small dark room, lightly lit, just enough to reveal a chair. I couldn't make out this room clearly as it was dark and the quality of the tape. It then flickered to a close-up of someone's hands actually holding a VHS tape. I could just make out writing on the tape this person was holding that titled 2 weeks prior. The rest of the video was just images of a patio of a house and some trees before ending with a credit saying welcome home. I couldn't make out what that tape was all about and who gave it to me and why. Perhaps it was a collab of some sort and whoever sent it to me by mistake instead of the right house. I had all these different reasons coming to mind before heading back to bed. I went out to a couple of job interviews the following day that I applied for, now that I'm living in a new location, and then did a bit of shopping. But as I arrived back home, I noticed there was something in my mailbox. It was another parcel, and as I brought it inside, I discovered it was another tape, which had the label where you can write on it peeled off, with just some leftover sticky residue, leaving it deliberately titleless. There was also an old news article it came with, from a few years back, of a missing woman named Molly, which why it was included was extra eerie. Of course, I instantly placed it in the VCR before putting my groceries away with the anticipation and played it. Again, it started off in the same room with the chair, but no one was sitting in it this time. It was just a lonely empty chair in what seemed to be some room. It was kind of eerie that whoever filmed this could have been the person delivering me this strange tape, and I still didn't know if it was intentionally for me or not. Then something even more strange appeared in the next clip. At first, it started off with a muffled old type of jazz music playing in the background with a slight static, and it was at some party, and writing that slowly appeared on screen as the opening credits that wrote 2 weeks prior, with the video peering through a window of a party fixating on someone. It must have been the same tape those hands were holding in the first clip. I guess they watched this tape as well. It was kind of chilling to know that the person in the start of this video was holding the same tape I was playing, except I didn't realize right away as the label was peeled off. Then it got worse, as the person in the party seemed to be followed while they were driving back home, I presume, as the video was filmed through a car behind her while it was driving, but ended there before the woman got back to her home. The video ended with a final text in the credits which wrote, "Welcome home." I was left stunned with an intense stalking feeling from that tape, and that being unsettling enough, let alone someone delivered this tape to me. Whether it was for me or not, someone knows I live here. But as disturbed as I was by the whole scenario, I still didn't take it into the police, because I was so interestingly confused and wondered if there would be more. Why would I want more? I didn't, but something kept me from revealing these tapes and everything that's happening. What do these tapes mean, and why was I getting them? I then wondered, with these tapes being delivered to me, if the person delivering these tapes filmed them, could all these films be local? At least within a few miles, as I stated earlier. Aside from a few separate houses, there wasn't anything much around, except for the closest town a mile away. A few days passed and I didn't receive any more tapes. Perhaps that was all it. Eventually I completely forgot about the tapes after placing them away and got on with my life. Until I heard another knock. I checked the time and it was 3 AM. What could anyone be doing knocking at my door at this time? I got out of bed and started heading towards the front door, and instantly my memory came back when I saw that there was another tape sitting below my feet on the porch. How could I have not thought it was the same person? I grabbed my flashlight, searching outside my property, calling if anyone was out there. I was really starting to worry this time. I called out for a bit but got no response. Now feeling more uneasy, I was too nervous to actually play the tape this time. I went back to bed but stayed awake all night with my eyes open, thinking about who could be out there and why they were giving me these tapes. I didn't sleep until the sun rose and woke past noon. When I got out of bed, since daylight made me more comfortable, I couldn't help but not ignore the third tape that was given to me. So again, before I did anything else, I played this one too. I sat in my chair once again as the video started playing with the static starting up. Then there was a still image at first, with a distant muffled piano I could just make out. The image was black and white, jumpy and bad quality, but I could see it was a property of land. There were surrounding trees and an old wooden shed to the left, a bit down the lawn. It was strange that this area, though it doesn't show more than an acre of plain land and trees, strangely seemed familiar. Then my heart sank to my stomach as the next clip played. It was another image, but this time silent. But the image was of my house. I nearly jumped back with a scream, but I was in so much shock and still didn't manage to run out of there. My blinds were closed, but still, as scared as I was, I had to see what was next in this tape. But it just got worse from the next clips that went by. The next clip that played with the credits this time saying Molly, it started back in that room with the same figure in the chair, except this time it was still dark but more lit than the last time, with more of the room illuminated and I noticed the person in the chair from the first clip was actually the woman at the party, and she was crying, seeming very frightened. She was obviously kidnapped with her hands bound. The clip ended with a high-pitched screeching sound almost sending me backwards. Everything was starting to puzzle together. This woman was the same woman in the clips all along that was also being followed back home. My home. She was the same missing woman in the papers that came with the second tape. The way I received all these tapes in this order, with the papers and the peeled off label on the second tape, was all intentionally planned. This person is playing mind games with me. But what else I noticed? The chair she was sitting in was a chair I've been sitting in all along watching these tapes. I jumped out my seat with the chair falling backwards with a loud thud that echoed. The room was also in the basement room I have in this house, as the lights revealed. The next two clips in the tape was what truly got me out of the house. Next filmed was of my house again, but this time peering through the window, just like the second tape I received, watching me. It was watching me at the TV, watching me watch the first tape the second night I moved into that house, and continued watching me throughout the second tape, as both nights I must have had the blinds open. As if I didn't flee then, I was frozen in shock. But the next and final tape was of me again, sleeping in bed just peeking through the door. I noticed it was one of the nights I didn't receive the tapes, as I remember the way I arranged my room. The tape ended just after the final title, which wrote, "Welcome Home." As I immediately was about to run through the door, I heard a creak behind me, down the hall from one of the bedroom doors, but I didn't turn around and see who was standing down the hallway. I ran out of that house as fast as I could, grabbing my keys with the sounds of heavy footsteps charging behind me, hearing it get closer and more loud each second as I started unknocking the front door, but I managed to run out and make it to my car, flooring it down the road to town to the nearest neighbor, there calling the police. The cops searched the entirety of that house, gathering all the tapes, but whoever this person was vanished completely, and they were never found. I moved far away from that place to a new location, starting a life there and moving on with my life after that experience. I do still get occasional nightmares though, and wondered what would have happened if I didn't make it out of that house in time. I feel stupid not making it out much sooner like I should have. It was like I was set there for this person's entertainment, like it was a creative way, making me slowly realize everything before catching me being the next victim. I knew they'd done this before, because when I followed up with the police, there were reports of similar cases of missing people within the time in the local areas, and a few tapes amongst the many disappearances that's been found after disappearance. The police have been hunting this person for a while, so I knew Molly was likely also watching someone else before she met her fate. The last thing police informed me about was another final tape, which was filmed on an old camera left behind in that house they found, and judging by the few other tapes they discovered, they believe it was supposed to be for the next victim after me. I asked if I could see the tape, but they warned me about watching it, that it will very likely further trouble me, but after all I experienced, I went through with it. The final footage was filmed down that hall the moment I was watching the last tapes on that VCR, just before I got out of that house.